The billionaire's hearth was transformed when a 7-year-old girl asked, "Can I share your meal?" Ethan Reynolds sat at a table draped in white linen, the flickering candlelight casting shadows on the faces of those dining nearby. The clatter of silverware filled the air, an orchestra of wealth and prestige that felt detached from him. He was a self-made billionaire, a man who had transformed his immigrant parents' meager dreams into a sprawling empire of success. Yet tonight, the opulence surrounding him felt like a gilded cage, suffocating his spirit as loneliness wrapped around him like a second skin. In this bustling New York restaurant, he felt invisible, a ghost among the living. His hand gripped the silver fork tightly, the tension building in his chest. Was this what he had sacrificed everything for? The lavish meals, the sparkling cityscape, all hollow echoes of a life filled with ambition. There was a time when the thought of being alone in this very moment would have sent him spiraling into despair. But now, as he reflected on the sacrifices made and the lost connections, a different kind of desperation seeped into his thoughts, a longing for something real. Then, like a breath of fresh air, a small figure approached. It was a girl, no more than 7, with wild curls bouncing and a look of pure audacity on her cherubic face. "Can I share your meal?" she asked, her voice clear and unfiltered in a world of pretentious conversations. The audacity, the simplicity of her request left him momentarily stunned. Here she stood, a stark contrast to the suits and sparkle around him, challenging the indifference of fine dining civilization. He hesitated, torn between the safety of his solitude and the unexpected tug of compassion ignited by her boldness. Could he invite her to join him? He wasn't sure what compelled him, but finally he nodded. "Sure, have a seat," he replied, surprised by the softness in his voice. As she slid into the chair opposite him, something began to unravel within him. The walls that had fortified his loneliness began to quake. Mia spoke with an endearing candor. It poured out like a story waiting to be told. She shared tales of a sick brother, weaving struggles with laughter, painting her family with strokes of joy despite the gray shades of hardship. Each word hit him like a splintered reflection of the life he had crafted. His rapt attention turned into an awakening. Her gratitude for the simple act of sharing a meal clashed with his own experiences. He had tasted wealth but ignored the richness of human connection that Mia embraced easily. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As laughter mingled with tears over their plate of spaghetti, Ethan felt turmoil churn within him. The paradox was sharp. How could he exist in a world of such privilege, yet feel utterly alone? Guests around him indulged in laughter and casual affluence, while he grappled with burdens unseen. His life was a fortress of success, but now it felt like a miscast role. Could he risk the safety that wealth provided for a venture into vulnerability? Mia's innocent excitement pierced his chest, igniting a flicker of hope and confusion. How could such a small child possess resilience so profound, while he felt like a fraud in the very life he created? The waiter approached with the check, a tangible reminder of the choice looming, a decision that would shape his world. Ethan felt the weight of the moment, uncertainty coiling around him as he faced a reckoning. Would he step into a life richer than gold, or retreat into the comfort of solitude? The answer lingered, unresolved, as he held his breath, caught between two worlds. The quiet realization throbbed in Ethan's chest as he placed the check down on the table. His fingers lingered on the edge, feeling the smooth surface beneath his touch, reminding him of the sterile transactions that dominated his life. Instead of comfort, he felt a profound emptiness settle in. It was as if this piece of paper represented everything he had ever achieved, a monumental success that now looked so trivial against the depth of human connection illustrated by Mia. Mia's laughter rang in his ears, vibrant and uncomplicated, a stark contrast to the muffled conversations around him. She took a bite of her spaghetti, innocent joy painting her small face as she savored the meal. In that moment, Ethan found his thoughts spiraling. Was it really about sharing a meal, or was it about the willingness to embrace connections? Why was he so drawn to this tiny stranger? Her authenticity peeled away layers of artifice that had clung to him for years. His thoughts raced. Ethan had built an empire, but inside, he often felt like a performance artist, always acting but never truly engaged. The evenings spent sealing deals and hosting lavish parties began to feel less like a celebration of success and more like a theater of the absurd. In that restaurant brimming with elegance, the nobles he once revered now felt like mere actors in an unending drama produced for his own solitude. "Do you think people can share anything more than meals?" he found himself asking Mia, surprised at the question that slipped out of his mouth. She paused, her brows furrowing in concentration. "You can share smiles, help, and love." "My mom says those are more important than a big house or fancy things," she said, with a wisdom that startled him. Ethan felt a sting at her words, hitting him where it mattered. How far had he strayed from those simple core values? When was the last time he had genuinely felt joy? Or had he only confused it for satisfaction? Mia's naive insight forced him to confront his extravagant lifestyle, questioning if it had indeed replaced deeper, more fulfilling connections. Each closing thought felt like another chain loosening as he began to wrestle with a growing resolve. What if he let the walls down? Would vulnerability be interpreted as weakness, or perhaps the most courageous thing he could dare to explore? The check lay before him like a mirror reflecting the man he had become, a billionaire without a heart. He glanced back up at Mia, who was busy twirling her spaghetti, completely absorbed in the moment. Her innocent exuberance stirred a fresh wave of determination within him. He could seek a life filled not just with wealth, but with warmth. Could he change direction? Could he shift from constructing walls to opening doors? The drive within him throbbed, the sparks igniting a fire of potential. He envisioned ways to become a better man, to reach out beyond his gilded cage. As he stood to leave, he made a pact with himself to seek opportunities that would challenge his assumptions. He mentally noted to reconnect with family, friends, community, essentially humanity. "Will you let me share your dreams too?" he asked, half serious, a grin breaking through the fog of his thoughts. Mia giggled, her eyes bright with delight. "Of course, but make sure they're big dreams." And just as he left that restaurant, propelled by an epiphany ignited by a child's innocent enthusiasm, Ethan felt something shift within. Navigating life with more intention, with room for vulnerability, was a journey he was ready to embrace. But as he stepped out into the bustling city, a familiar face in the crowd caught his eye, someone he had once known all too well. A specter from his past, a thread that had long been frayed, now pulled sharper against the fabric of his burgeoning resolve. His heart raced, and stealthily a thought emerged that perhaps this encounter was the next chapter, one where his past would once again challenge his present choices. Could he truly emerge transformed, or would the ghosts of his past hold him back from this promising future? Ethan stood rooted to the spot as recognition washed over him. The figure moving through the throng, once so familiar, now felt like a specter resurrected from the shadows of his past, a past he had carefully buried beneath achievements and accolades. As this person approached, the fluttering anxiety in his chest intensified, making him question the stability of his newfound resolve. "Emma." Her name slipped through clenched teeth, as though uttering it conjured a long-forgotten warmth that immediately chilled his skin. They hadn't spoken in over 3 years, not since the last bitter argument that had severed their relationship. Ethan had convinced himself that this division was necessary, that ambition demanded sacrifices, and relationships, especially ones with people who wouldn't understand the chase for success, were among the first to go. "Hey, Ethan," Emma replied, her voice steady and devoid of the warmth they once shared. Her eyes, once bright with affection, now glinted with something more hardened, a protective coating against vulnerability. Their history hung heavily between them, a suffocating reminder of the life he had left behind. He drew in a breath, realizing the weight of his past was yet another barrier to achieving the emotional openness he craved. What are you doing here?" The words felt inadequate, like an attempt to deflect from the truth of their shared history. "Just visiting a friend," she said, glancing around as if the crowd were a safer companion than the conversation. "What about you? More business deals?" Her casual tone stung more than he expected. With Mia's laughter still echoing in his mind, the juxtaposition of those innocent moments against Emma's cold reminder of his priorities was a decisive shift. "Actually, I'm trying to do something different," he admitted, a whisper of hope threading through his voice. "I'm looking to reconnect, to actually be present in people's lives." Emma's brows knitted together, skepticism etched on her features. "Present? After all these years? You think it's that easy? After what happened?" Her words struck like ice shards. He had built walls, yes, but with each revelation that morning, he had resolved to dismantle them, beginning with himself. Yet confrontation always ignited an immediate instinct to shield his vulnerabilities with cynicism. "I know it's complicated." "Complicated?" she interrupted, her eyes narrowing. "Ethan, you used to dream of climbing every corporate ladder without looking back. Am I just a pit stop on your road to reflection?" The accusation cut deeply, exposing wounds he'd thought had long since healed. "No, that's not it. I've been so focused on my career, I forgot what really mattered. Maybe it's time to change." Emma paused, her defenses wavering for a moment as she searched his face for sincerity. "And what's changed?" He could only shrug, grappling for a grasp on the palpable fear wrapping around him. "A little girl reminded me that sharing should be about more than deals and success. I thought I'd share my dreams, my life, my heart, with people who matter." "Your heart?" she echoed, skepticism returning as she tilted her head. "You mean the heart that spent years locking people out?" The truth in her words was a mirror, reflecting his past self, a self he wanted to leave behind. "I was afraid of being vulnerable." "But that's where joy really is, right?" An unexpected silence stretched between them, heavy with unresolved tension. Confrontation brought clarity. He could sense it, just out of reach, like an ember waiting for wind to ignite the flame. "I don't know if you can change," Emma said finally, her voice softening, a cautious vulnerability now threading through her tone. "But I guess you'll have to prove it." A flicker of determination sparked within Ethan. He had embarked on a journey toward change, yet this confrontation brought forth an additional challenge he hadn't anticipated. His vision narrowed. He now understood the daunting path ahead. To become who he wanted to be, he had to face the ghosts, starting with Emma. Would he rise to the occasion, or would those remnants of his past extinguish the new fire ignited by Mia? But as he steadied his breathing, a new thought surged through him, urging him to act. This could very well be the test of his transformation. "Let me show you. Let's start fresh. No deals, no walls." The challenge lingered in the air between them like a charged promise. Would he be able to break down the barriers he'd built? Nature demanded he confront the past he'd so easily dismissed. As they shared a hesitant smile that hinted at the possibility of something more, something real, he felt a flicker of hope ignite.
Yet an unfamiliar urge to retreat nudged at him, a reminder of what lay ahead. Could a true connection withstand the trials of time? Would Emma stand beside him as he ventured forth? Ethan stepped back from the moment, the weight of Emma's gaze lingering beneath his skin. Now standing on the precipice of vulnerability, he felt a surge of determination replace the doubt festering in his gut. This was no mere flicker of interest. It was the inception of something powerful. He had to prove to Emma, and to himself, that he was ready to change. He turned away for a brief moment, his heart pounding with memories of late nights spent alone, buried in reports and client calls. Those moments had been defined by ambition, but now they felt hollow, like a distant echo of what he thought would lead to fulfillment. "Emma," he started, searching for the right words. "I can't just walk back into the life I had and act like everything's fine. I need to be different, and I want to show you I can be." Part of him recoiled at the intimacy of his honesty. Would she see through his determination? Did she believe him? Her brows knitted slightly, as if she were assessing a puzzle that had no clear solution. "How do I know this isn't just talk? How do I know that you're not going to disappear again into your world of self-imposed isolation?" His throat tightened, but he pressed forward. "I guess you'll have to hold me accountable. I want us to figure it out together." Skepticism flashed in her eyes again, but a hint of curiosity softened her expression. "And what's in this for you? A reconciled relationship? Just another deal?"
He hesitated, the sting of truth holding him captive. "This is about more than just us. It's about me becoming who I should have always been. I don't know the answer, but I want to find out. I'm tired of feeling disconnected from life." She studied him with a penetrating intensity, the silence between them charged with unspoken fears and hopes. His resolve wavered. The fear of failure loomed large. Could he really change? Could he sustain this new direction when the ghosts of his past threatened to resurface at every corner? "I don't know what this exodus means for us, Ethan, but if you're really ready, it's going to take more than promises. But I've started taking steps. A week ago, I volunteered at a children's shelter." Her eyebrows shot up, disbelief mixed with genuine surprise. "You? Volunteering?" "The little girl I met, she asked me if she could share my meal." The edges of his mouth twitched upward, recalling the warmth of Mia's laughter. "It hit me hard. I realized I've missed so much. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself." Emma's expression softened, but her resistance remained. "That's a nice start, but one act doesn't make a transformed man." He took a deep breath, heart racing with all the possibilities laid out before him. "What if I work to keep volunteering? What if I make it a point to reach out to others more regularly? Would that be proof enough? There should be more than actions, Ethan. You need to grapple with what drives your fear of connection. Until you dissect that, you'll keep slipping back into old habits." Her words sank in like an anchor, shifting his focus. This wasn't just about surface-level changes. He needed to delve deeper, peel back the layers he had carefully wrapped around his heart. "What do I need to confront?" Emma opened her mouth to respond, but the buzzing discord of her phone interrupted her. She glanced down, their moment momentarily suspended as another picture of her world intruded. Ethan felt an unsettling surge of urgency, the time within their fragile connection devolving before he could cement the moment. "I can't lose this chance," he thought, realizing the precarious balance he had to maintain. He made a decision. "Let's explore this together, Emma. Let's meet again tomorrow and work through it." She looked up, surprise flickering in her expression, but he could see a tentative agreement lurking beneath the surface. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," he said, the simplicity of the next step comforting yet exhilarating. "I want to give this a chance, just us, no walls." A revealing smile broke through the facade she had crafted. "All right, but don't think for a second I'll make this easy for you." He chuckled softly. Wouldn't want it any other way. As they parted ways, Ethan felt an exhilarating rush of uncertainty mixed with a flicker of hope. He had finally grasped a piece of the connection he yearned for, yet vast and uncharted territory lay ahead. Would he be able to confront the shadows that clung to him? Could he withstand the winds against this new flame igniting in his heart? The thought loomed, piercing and electric. Tomorrow held a promise, but would he have the courage to walk into it, or would the ghosts of yesterday pull him away? Ethan awoke the following morning to the sound of relentless rain tapping against the window, a somber drumbeat that mirrored the weight of his thoughts. This was it, a blank slate, a new opportunity that could transform him, just as he envisioned. As he got dressed, a sense of urgency coursed through him. He had perceived change as an abstract notion, something that could be easily pawned off with grand gestures. But Emma's words clung to him, a reminder that this journey required substance, not just surface-level commitment. The drive to the children's shelter felt longer than usual. Each intersection stretched into an eternity as his mind churned with the complexities of what lay ahead. He was embarking on the difficult task of unraveling layers he had spent a lifetime constructing. What did it mean to confront the fear of connection? Could he deal with the specters of rejection that haunted his past? Questions collided in his mind like raindrops on the windshield. Upon arriving, he sloshed through puddles, the cool water splashing against his shoes. He paused for a moment in front of the entrance, absorbing the chaos inside. Children filled the space, laughter and voices colliding with the vibrant colors of the walls, creating an atmosphere charged with untamed energy. Yet beneath that joyous veneer, Ethan felt a tug of anxiety. Here, he would face not only the children's exuberance, but also his own demons. As Ethan stepped inside, he was greeted by familiar faces. Mia, the little girl who had shared his meal, bounded toward him, her smile brightening the dimly lit room. "You came back," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "I promised I would," he replied, kneeling to meet her eye level. The innocence in her gaze forced Ethan to confront his guarded nature. In her simplicity, she embodied the essence of unfiltered connection. "What do you want to do today?" he asked, conscious of his intentions. His role here was shifting from mere volunteer to something more profound. "Can we paint?" she suggested eagerly. "Of course," he replied, surprised at his own eagerness to engage. As they set up art supplies, Ethan felt a shift inside him. Each stroke of paint was like therapy, releasing pent-up emotions that had festered for far too long. As Mia chattered away, oblivious to his spiraling thoughts, a sensation of warmth filled him, easing the tightness around his chest. This was no mere act of service, this was an exploration into his own heart. But just as he was beginning to revel in this moment, the shadow of doubt crept in. He remembered the times he had walked away from vulnerable connections. Before he could spiral further, he realized he needed to make a conscious choice. In that instant, he decided to openly share a little of himself with Mia. "Did I ever tell you that I used to be scared to try new things?" he confessed, recalling the risks he had avoided. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Really? But you're a grown-up. Aren't you supposed to be brave?" A soft chuckle escaped him. "I wish I could say yes. But the truth is, even adults feel afraid sometimes. We just have to find our own courage." Mia pondered this for a moment, then took his hand, her little fingers wrapping around his. "Then you're brave now because you came here." Hope bloomed within Ethan, accompanied by the awareness that vulnerability could serve as a bridge to true connection. As they layered colors onto the canvas, an idea began to take root. He could turn today into an initiative beyond mere volunteering. What if he introduced structured sessions for the children, allowing them to explore art as an avenue for self-expression? In doing so, he could fashion a platform, a conduit to empower not only them, but also himself. He felt invigorated by the prospect, and in that moment, he resolved to turn this flicker of inspiration into something tangible. As the session drew to a close, uncertainty threaded through him. He had an outline but lacked concrete steps. How could he implement a plan that would resonate, not just for the children, but for himself as well? Mia looked up at him, her joy permeating the feels of doubt surrounding him. "Can I come back tomorrow too?" "Absolutely," he replied, heart swelling against the backdrop of uncertainty, a flicker of purpose igniting within. Leaving the shelter that day, he cradled his ideas and insecurities tightly together, wrestling with the potential of what lay ahead. He felt the urgency to flesh out his plan, but amid that bubbling excitement lingered the fear of failure. Would he truly have the courage to transform his inspirations into actions, or would he retreat into the isolation that had defined his past? Tomorrow loomed before him, both a witness and participant to the choices he would make. What would happen when he put his ideas into motion? Would the ghosts of his past disrupt newfound connections once again, or could he finally forge a path toward a more meaningful existence? The answers felt precariously close, yet frighteningly out of reach. The morning light filtered through the clouds, dissipating the remnants of rain, offering Ethan a fragile sense of hope. He sipped his coffee slowly, contemplating the canvas of possibilities ahead. Emma's voice echoed in the recesses of his mind. Substantive change requires action. But the question loomed larger: how to translate his vision into reality? He pulled out a notepad, ready to sketch his ideas. Yet as he stared at the blank page, the cold grip of self-doubt squeezed his chest. What if the children didn't respond to his ideas? What if he failed?
He shook his head, trying to dispel the thoughts. They were remnants of an old, defeated version of himself that he couldn't afford to acknowledge any longer. With deliberation, he wrote at the top of the page, "Art Sessions." It was a strong beginning. Streaming ideas flowed into his mind, creative themes, different art mediums, and perhaps even a showcase of their work at the end of the month. Each note reignited his purpose, underscoring what Mia had so innocently recognized: his willingness to be brave. The day passed in a blur of planning. He developed a structured outline that included a few basic art concepts, techniques they could explore, and ways to encourage self-expression among the children. Each idea fueled an ember of bravery within him. This was no longer just about volunteering. It was a calling to inspire, not only them, but also himself. Arriving at the shelter, he was greeted by the familiar cacophony of laughter and chatter. As he stepped into the room, he felt the buzz of energy resonate within him, invigorating his spirit. Mia spotted him first and raced over, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Are we painting today?" she asked, bouncing on her heels. "Yes, but with something special," Ethan said, grinning. He pulled out his carefully drafted plan and watched as her brow furrowed with curiosity. "We're going to have art sessions where we learn to express ourselves through different types of art." "What's express?" Mia asked, the innocence of her question reminding him of his own journey into vulnerability. "It means sharing what's inside us in a way that people can see and feel," he explained. "Art helps us do that." As he narrated his plan to the children, he noted their varied reactions, some eager, others unsure, while a few exchanged glances of excitement. This was a different kind of connection, transformational, rooted in shared exploration. During the first session, Ethan felt alive. He guided them through the fundamentals of drawing and painting, leaning into the chaotic joy that the children naturally brought. With each laugh and every question, he found himself shedding layers of insecurity. He was no longer an observer. He was a participant, sharing not just skills, but parts of his story. Mia had quickly taken to the instructor role among her peers, her confidence surging as she helped others understand the basics he'd just shared. Observing her thrive ignited something in him, a realization that this wasn't merely about imparting knowledge, but also cultivating confidence. He'd seen his own fears suffocate him, preventing him from connecting deeply. But here he was, breaking through barriers not just for the children, but for himself. Yet, as the session wrapped up, a familiar unease crept back. The growing momentum felt precarious, like balancing on the edge of a tightrope. Would their excitement last once the novelty wore off? Mia tugged at his sleeve, pulling him from his contemplative spiral.
Can we do this every day? The question struck him with its earnestness. He was already dreading the decline of this newfound connection. As long as you're all here, then yes, I'll be back, he answered, infusing his words with conviction. As Ethan left the shelter, the weight of previous failures hung fresh in his mind. The fear of inadequacy tried wrapping around him again, but he pushed through, reminding himself of the joy inherent in their shared moments. Each child he engaged with was a mirror reflecting facets he had long buried: courage, hope, inspiration. However, his resolve was not without its shadows. There was still whispering doubt regarding his ability to lead them consistently, fostering genuine expression week after week. Was he capable of surmounting these newer challenges? The night deepened around him as he pondered his next steps. This was merely the beginning of what he had set in motion. Could he sustain a meaningful influence on their lives while navigating his own desires and fears? Tomorrow promised to unveil that truth, but the unanswered questions clung to him, gnawing insidiously. What awaited him when he returned? Would he confront his own ghosts, or would he cement a brighter reality through the eyes of these children? As dawn broke, Ethan awoke with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The art sessions had ignited an unexpected enthusiasm within him, yet the whisper of uncertainty loomed. The children would be waiting, and the thought of leading them again felt both exhilarating and terrifying. His internal dialogue wrestled between excitement and apprehension, each feeling pulling him in a different direction. What if he stumbled or lost control? What if he let them down? He arrived at the shelter earlier than usual, seeking solace in the quiet before the storm. The sun's rays painted shadows across the room, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy he had come to expect. He set up the materials meticulously, a variety of paints, brushes, and canvases, all a tangible representation of his hopes for the day. Yet that same self-doubt seeped back in. Would the children truly engage, or would they drift away, distracted by the cacophony of their surroundings? As the kids poured in, Ethan felt the pulse of the day shift. Mia led her friends, her buoyant spirit infectious, and he found himself drawn into her vivacity. "Are we going to make masterpieces today?" she beamed, and her enthusiasm cut through his lingering fog of doubt. "Absolutely," he replied, rediscovering his footing. Today, he had planned to focus on mixed media, combining painting with collage. To Ethan, this was not just about art. It served as a metaphor for life, blending experiences, thoughts, and emotions into something unique. As he began demonstrating techniques, he noticed Mia's eyes widen in admiration, urging him forward. Her encouragement triggered something within him that he hadn't realized was still there, a sense of responsibility.
He was not just an instructor. He was a compass, guiding them into uncharted waters of expression and understanding. He moved among the children, offering guidance here, a compliment there. Their laughter and the sound of brushes scratching across paper formed a symphony of newfound energy. It became clearer to him that the sessions were transforming into a safe haven, not only for them, but for him as well. With each moment of connection, he felt the threads of his own insecurities begin to unravel. Yet, a shadow loomed as the day progressed. Ethan sensed the challenge ahead: how to keep this momentum alive amidst the pressures of consistency and their responses to change. After trying to instill confidence through their artwork, doubt began to gnaw at the edges of his resolve again.
What if the children's initial excitement faded? Would his efforts falter, leaving him with an empty promise? As the session drew to a close, Ethan encouraged the children to showcase what they'd created. Each piece, a vivid expression of their inner world. Mia had created a collage of colorful cutouts representing her vibrant dreams, while others had painted landscapes that reflected their emotions. His heart swelled, seeing their raw creativity burst forth, validating that perhaps, just perhaps, he could do this. Then came the moment when he nervously asked, "What did you think of the art session today?" Mia stood up, uncharacteristically serious for her age. "It felt like we were showing our hearts. Can we do it every day?" Her question echoed in the room, palpable and filled with urgency. His chest tightened. Her earnest plea pressured him. Could he meet her expectations, maintain their interest, and truly facilitate their growth in a meaningful way? This was more than a fleeting interaction. It was a thread weaving through lives. The weight of responsibility felt heavy, yet strangely exhilarating. Ethan had a choice now: either lean into his doubts or embrace the opportunity. "I promise to come back," he declared, feeling the words surge from a newfound depth within him. As he wrapped up the session, the doubts began to shift. A compelling realization dawned. He wasn't just influencing them, he was learning from them. Each bright-eyed response, every piece of artwork was an invitation for him to confront the shadows of his own insecurities head-on. As the last child waved farewell, he lingered at the door, reluctant to leave the vibrant energy behind. Tomorrow awaited him with its own complexities, but he felt a flicker of determination ignite. Could he truly transform his self-doubt into confidence through these children's eyes? He stepped back into the world outside, a mixture of hope and trepidation swirling through him. One truth glimmered brighter than the rest. Tomorrow he would face those fears again. Each stroke of the brush, a challenge, a revelation on his journey. Could he uncover the depth of his abilities even as he navigates the challenges ahead? Tomorrow would surely tell. Ethan awoke with a renewed sense of purpose, the flicker of determination from the previous day still lighting his thoughts. He had made a promise to Mia, and it resonated deeply within him. The budding responsibility weighed heavily, yet it was accompanied by an unfamiliar excitement. In that vulnerability, he began to redefine himself, nurturing an aspect of his identity that had long remained dormant. As he prepared for the day, his mind wandered to possible techniques he could introduce that might engage the children further. What if he integrated storytelling into their art? If art had been a therapeutic channel for his own emotions, maybe weaving stories would help them convey what lay beneath their colorful creations. The idea sparked, but along with it came a familiar wave of doubt. Would they resonate with these narratives, or would he risk overwhelming them? Arriving at the shelter, the usual dance of uncertainty bounced in his chest. The echoes of their laughter from yesterday still lingered in the corners of his mind, mingling with fresh anxiety. He set up the room, arranging the canvas and paints, while fighting the urge to allow his insecurities to dictate his approach. Today, he would introduce storytelling as a supplementary layer to their mixed-media art. He recognized the potential for deeper engagement, but could he communicate this effectively? As the kids arrived, Ethan spotted Mia first. Her spirit seemed even more radiant today, her previously composed demeanor replaced by an eager bounce in her step. "Are we going to tie our stories to our art today?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. His heart raced, propelled by her unfiltered excitement. She wasn't just a student, she was an ally in this venture. "Yes," he affirmed, feeling the weight of his apprehensions slightly lift. The other children gathered around, their eyes wide with curiosity as he explained the plan. He watched their expressions shift from initial confusion to intrigue as he linked storytelling to their artistic journey. Today, I want us to express not just what we see, but also what we feel and believe. Ethan's voice grew steadier, emboldened by the growing anticipation in the room. As he demonstrated how to visually communicate their narratives through brushstrokes and colors, he felt a ripple of confidence surge within him. The shared gaze of the children, engaged and attentive, fueled his resolve. They were ready. He just needed to guide them without overstepping. Moving among the children, Ethan provided prompts, nudging memories and feelings to surface. The room buzzed with energy as they created a tapestry of personal tales executed through vibrant strokes. Ethan's earlier concerns gave way to the reality that they were feeding off each other's creativity. He felt himself oscillating between the roles of teacher and learner, each child revealing a part of themselves that compelled him to reconsider his self-doubt. As the session progressed, he witnessed Mia paint a bold red streak, punctuating it with a sprinkle of blue. "This is me feeling really brave, but scared too," she explained, her vulnerability illuminating the space. That moment crystallized Ethan's purpose. He wasn't merely there to instruct. He was facilitating a journey of courage, not just for them, but for himself. Yet a haunting realization lingered beneath the surface. How could he sustain this? Could he find an anchor in their stories amidst his own swirling sense of inadequacy? As the laughter faded into deep concentration, the veiled tension inside him mounted. What if tomorrow's session brought fresh challenges? What if he couldn't keep up with their evolving creativity? By the end of the session, the children summoned their creations to the center, sharing their artwork interwoven with stories. Their words flowed freely, and for a brief moment, Ethan felt a warmth envelop him, a collective acceptance of their shared vulnerability. But as they celebrated their creations, the lingering questions clung to him like shadows. In the glow of their joyful chatter, Ethan caught Mia's eye, her tender smile a mirror of his own insecurities. She embodied hope, a reminder that he had a role to play in their lives and in his. He would need to confront not just their evolving artistry, but also the shadows in his own heart. "Can we do this again tomorrow?" Mia's innocent question sent a shiver through him. Her trust in his guidance ignited his understanding of personal accountability. "There's so much more to explore," he promised, though doubt lingered like an uninvited guest. Would he fulfill that promise? As Ethan walked home, the night air carried a weight both daunting and invigorating. Tomorrow was not merely another session. It would be a test, a confrontation with the fear of inadequacy seeping from his past. What could he discover within himself that might change the narrative of his life? Would he awaken the brave artist he wished to be, one who could create alongside those fearless children? The dawn would break with answers, or perhaps new questions yet to unfold. Ethan awoke to yet another dawn, the weight of yesterday's promise still fresh on his mind. The sun filtered through his window, casting rays that felt more illuminating than usual. Today marked a pivotal moment. He realized he had a choice, not merely to guide the children's art, but to actively confront his own fears. The more he reflected on last day's successes, especially Mia's courage in expressing her emotions, the more he understood that he too had unexamined feelings waiting to be translated into strokes and colors. As he prepared for the day, he sought clarity in his vision. What if this session wasn't solely about expression? What if it became a platform for legacy? The legacies they each carried, both burdens and triumphs. Intrigued by this angle, he revisited the idea of storytelling, but this time it felt more urgent. It wasn't just a method, it was a lifeline. His own narrative had been carefully hidden, but perhaps now was the time to unearth it. Companions of creativity lifting him up as he attempted to navigate the tangled history he often suppressed. Arriving at the shelter, the familiar buzz of anticipation enveloped him. Setting up the art supplies, he pondered his actions. Instead of merely prompting their individual stories, would it be time to incorporate his own struggles? As he considered this, a wave of tumultuous doubt rose within him. Would exposing himself shatter the safe space they had cultivated? Or could vulnerability breed strength, even among children? When the kids trickled in, Mia stood out immediately, her infectious energy filling the room. But today, she seemed to harbor more than just excitement. A subtle flicker of concern crossed her features as she approached him. Her instinct to gauge his emotions struck a chord. "Are you okay?" she asked, tilting her head curiously. Ethan exhaled slowly, momentarily caught off guard. "Yeah, I think so," he replied, though the uncertainty hung in the air. It was a small exchange, yet deeply significant. In that moment, he was reminded affectionately of the weight of their budding bond. He wondered if he had something to share that could resonate with her. "Today, we'll delve into the things that make us who we are. Our stories carry weight," he announced, observing the immediate intrigue gleaming in their eyes. As they began, he intentionally shared a version of himself, snippets of his past artistic endeavors, moments of loneliness, and times when he had doubted his chosen path. The act of vocalizing these feelings reinforced an empowering sense of connection. He witnessed as each child braced themselves, absorbing not only their individuality, but also a shared humanity. Mia expressed her thoughts freely, sharing how she felt like an outsider at times. Witnessing her raw honesty inspired Ethan. He made an impulsive decision. "Let's use a color palette that represents our emotions today. Think of one color for your happiest memory, another for your fears." With a shared challenge, the room ignited with purpose. As the canvases began to fill, Ethan roamed among the tables. Laughter intertwined with silent introspection. Each child emerging as an artist unraveling their essence. Yet, moments of reflection bubbled within him. As he saw their artwork morph and evolve, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was trapped in a double bind. The urge to break through his walls grew stronger, but trepidation loomed larger. With each brave stroke of paint, Ethan observed Mia's progress. An abstract storm, splashes of color colliding and flowing, giving rise to something vibrant and alive. "This is me trying to make sense of everything," she said, her sincerity resonating. As he leaned close to her piece, her eyes lifted and locked onto his, imploring more than mere acknowledgement. A challenge bloomed in her gaze. How could he guide if he wouldn't share? By the session's climax, the once bustling energy transformed into a reflective silence. Each child lost in their own world, yet shared in this communal experience. They all shared their finished masterpieces, but Ethan felt rooted in his struggle, feeling as if he were on the cusp of unveiling a hidden part of himself. As they packed up, Mia's soft voice broke through. "Can I see what you made, Ethan?" This simple request sent a shiver through him, the weight of unspoken vulnerability bearing down heavier than before. "Maybe someday," he replied, evading the query yet acknowledging its significance. The sun dipped lower beyond the horizon as he walked home, the dazzling colors of the sunset sparking a newfound urgency within him. There was more to uncover. His art and his life were threads in a larger tapestry waiting for attention. As the shadows of night wrapped around him, the question loomed larger in his mind. What had he been afraid of? What if his story, much like the children's, was worthy of being heard? Tomorrow would not just be an extension of today. It called for authenticity, a confrontation beckoning him to step closer to the person he longed to be. The chance to face that artist waiting within, what would that look like? Would he seize that opportunity, or retreat yet again into the shadows? Ethan awoke with the sun piercing through his window, radiating warmth and illuminating his surroundings. This morning felt different. Where apprehension once reigned, a profound sense of excitement surged through him. Today would mark a pivotal moment, the day he would truly embrace vulnerability, courageously step into his truth, and reclaim his own story.
As he dressed, he envisioned how he would reshape the narrative of his past and share it with the children. His experiences, the deep struggles, the painful choices, and the ultimate triumphs, were not merely personal burdens. They were lessons that could inspire resilience and connection. Breaking through that barrier felt monumental, yet it also lifted a heavy weight off his shoulders. Arriving at the shelter, Ethan sensed the electric anticipation of the children. As they flooded the room, Mia was the first to bound over to him, her face lighting up like a fireworks display. "Are we going to paint our hearts today?" she chirped, excitement bubbling over. "Yes, and more. Today, I want to share my story and see how we can create together," Ethan replied, every word fueling the resolute fire igniting within him. Gathering the children around him, he took a deep breath and began to share his life. "When I was a child, I always felt like I had to prove myself.
I thought that success meant having money and fancy things, but I was missing something crucial, real connections, like the ones we're building right now." Each admission loosened the chains of his past, exposing moments of confusion, loss, and ultimately resilience. He watched as the children listened, their bright eyes wide with wonder. They began responding, their own stories tumbling out, rich with emotion and innocence. This moment was shared. They were no longer mere students, but co-creators, weaving their lives' narratives together. Mia's painting took shape, bursting with vivid colors that radiated joy and struggles alike. "I painted this blue for my brother who's not feeling well. It makes me sad, but I also painted a rainbow because I believe he'll get better," she shared. Her words struck him deeply. She was embodying the very lessons he yearned to communicate. Quelling his own fears, Ethan turned to his canvas, the brush trembling for a moment in his hand. He dipped it into the paint, layering colors that represented his journey. The dark blues representing loneliness, fiery reds for ambition, and gentle greens for the hope that began to blossom with each encounter at the shelter. As strokes flowed, he felt alive. He was reclaiming his narrative with each movement, reconstructing the canvas of his life with newfound clarity. The session unfolded with laughter, tears, and shared memories, evolving from an art class into a heartfelt exchange of mutual vulnerability. Each child contributed a thread to the fabric they were creating together. It transformed into a tapestry layered with honesty and a raw openness that filled the room. As the final pieces were revealed, Ethan felt a wave wash over him. He was no longer the distant billionaire cloaked in wealth. He was a facilitator of connection, embodying both strength and vulnerability. The walls he had built came crumbling down, replaced by a genuine camaraderie. "Can we show these at a gallery?" Mia asked, her voice filled with anticipation, excitement making her bounce slightly on her feet. Ethan smiled, the idea igniting a spark of insight. "Absolutely, but we can also share them with others who are missing that connection, like the people in our community," he said, envisioning not just art pieces on display, but a movement towards opening hearts and minds. As the session wound down, he noticed the sense of community that had flourished in what was once an isolated experience. At that moment, he understood the profound impact of shared stories. Each child took home not only a canvas, but also a memory of courage and collaboration. Stepping outside, the sun dipping low in the sky, he felt a warmth wrapping around him, a culmination of newfound self-awareness and purpose. He had confronted his fears, challenged his past, and emerged victorious, defined not just by his wealth, but by the depth of his connections. Today marked a definitive leap toward a life anchored in authenticity. The old Ethan had become a story worth sharing, one that intertwined with the stories of every child. He had finally left behind the gilded cage of isolation, penetrating the hearts of others while allowing his own to be seen. He didn't just find his voice, he found his purpose: to inspire connections. Tomorrow would unveil new challenges, but now he felt ready to face them. The final transformation solidified. He was a man who had not only conquered personal isolation, but had also established a legacy of warmth and connection. And in that certainty, he stepped forward, hopeful and resolved, into a future woven with meaningful relationships. Today, he had not just achieved personal impact, but he had rekindled his heart. Now, the future wasn't just a canvas waiting to be painted. It was a collection of vibrant stories waiting to be told. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because you need to support this channel. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, because your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.